Climate change is the biggest single challenge that humans have ever faced, because unlike other problems, which can be solved regionally or sectorally, climate change affects the very future of life on Earth. We have to remember that life as we know it on Earth has only existed for a very small portion of the Earth's history, and within very narrow parameters. And we are changing those parameters. So life is actually in danger.
Indeed, Maurice's work gave birth to a brand new era of international environmental diplomacy and governance at the 1972 Stockholm Conference, which saw the birth of the United Nations Environment Programme. It was the first UN agency to be headquartered in a developing country, and it was Maurice who built up UNEP from the ground with its headquarters in Nairobi on what was then a very simple coffee farm. Maurice convened the first ever international expert group meeting on climate change, a clear demonstration of how he was way ahead of the curve. He shepherded in a range of vital global environmental governance processes, from the original Rio Earth Summit, Agenda 21 and the Rio Declaration, to the launch of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change and the Convention on Biological Diversity. Crucially, Maurice ensured the full participation of developing countries in these processes, that included listening closely to those who were feeling marginalized, as well as indigenous people and those who were the poor in the world.
Hello, and good afternoon to all. Thank you for joining us. Greetings from the island of Malta, where all of us around this table are seated and meeting you online today. It's the afternoon here in Malta. It's slightly past 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're here for the fourth Strong Earth Youth Summit, because it is a meeting which is being held to commemorate Maurice Strong. We just saw the video clip just before I came on stream, and Maurice Strong, in this concept, in this study of addressing climate change and theming it, making it relevant to the tourism world in which we work, with the aspiration of climate-friendly travel. And Maurice Strong started it all by taking it up at the highest levels, starting it all by making it an agenda item for a global discussion at United Nations level. It was brave days back in the early 70s when the concept of climate change was known to few. The concept of climate change was in the realm of peripheral, cranky science, not even backed by strong science. And these people were strong visionaries, people like Maurice. On the basis of the little data that they had available at that time, they could foresee potential things happening and urge for a global movement to address them at a time when nobody believed or thought about these things. Today we still have our fair share of climate change deniers, in spite of all the evidence, in spite of all the science. So it continues to be an uphill struggle for humanity in spite of its existential threat. As Maurice said himself, as Maurice Strong himself said in the video clip that we've just seen. This is something which could literally wipe out life on this planet. We know that this planet has been in existence for about 4 billion years. We know that life, the very beginnings of life, date back at most to 1 billion plus years, so it's fairly recent. And in most of those 1 billion plus years, life existed at microbial level only. Sophisticated life forms, like we have today, the diversity of sophisticated life forms, like we have today, only date back hundreds of millions of years rather than in the billion stage. And again, quoting from Morris's beautiful introduction, all this diversity of life on this planet manages to exist within a very narrow comfort zone. Make it too cold and most species die out, make it too hot and most species die out too. So although we take the planet for granted, although we take weather and climate for granted, we should never cease to forget that we live within a very narrow comfort zone. When we consider that at 20 degrees centigrade, at 20 degrees Celsius, we are comfortable. Anything below 8 degrees, we start complaining. Anything above 30 degrees, we start complaining. In a temperature range which ranges from absolute zero to almost infinity, that's a very, very narrow comfort band for us. From an infinite range of temperatures, we can live comfortably, we and the rest of our fellow creatures on Earth, within a 30-40 degree maximum range. And for us, a 20 degree range, otherwise we need to take alternative steps. I'm from the Malta Tourism Authority, which is part of the Ministry for Tourism in Malta. And for the past years, we have been working with my friend Jeffrey through the development of SunX Malta. Sun, apart from the sun as the star which warms us up and gives us the excess heat leading to climate change, which we are so successfully capturing through carbon emissions and succeeding to keep in a greenhouse effect in the atmosphere. Sun also means the strong universal network, in commemoration of Maurice Strong, who was the visionary who started this movement. We have a full house here. We've got Jeffrey Lippman, we've got Ollie Wheatroff, we've got Jed Brown, and also Hans Friedrich. Apart from that, I also have a number of colleagues from the Malta Tourism Authority and the Malta Tourism Observatory, Tanya, Medel, Mary Rose, Pushi, and we've also got, maybe you can introduce Jeffrey. Three, please.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Hannah Dundee.
Charmin Schiavone.
Christopher Cortelli.
Who are Maltese students who have completed the diploma in climate-friendly travel, which is organized and which a lot of you out there have also partaken in. And they are the local side, Malta side of this global movement, which we are creating, which we are putting in place to spread the word when it comes to the importance of having climate-friendly travel. Why climate-friendly travel? Climate-friendly travel is a concept which recognizes the need, the irreplaceable need for humanity to travel. It's within our DNA that we need to travel, that we need to move and explore from one place to the other. It is also an economic need, many countries and destinations, but we also acknowledge that it comes at a cost. So the idea here is that rather to try to address climate change, rather than try to address the wider implications of lower carbon footprints for human activity, is to focus on climate-friendly travel. Because our background, what unites us together as a group of people worldwide, is our tourism background. So rather than address the whole complex nature of climate change and how to reduce carbon footprint, we focus we focus on the minimization of carbon through travel activity. We should never forget, ultimately, this is why it's the strong Earth Youth Summit, that this is a celebration of Maurice Strong and his remarkable achievements in the field of climate change. Maurice Strong passed away just a few days before the famous Paris Climate Summit of 2015, just 3 days, in fact, before the commencement of the Paris Summit. And that summit, which was one of the big summits addressing climate change, actually commemorated his passing with a eulogy. And just to stress a Malta connection with that summit and with Maurice Strong's passing, precisely at the same time that the Paris conference was taking place, here in Malta, we were hosting a Commonwealth Head of Government meeting, which brings together all the heads of government of the British Commonwealth. And at that time, the Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Trudeau, who was in Malta for CHOGM, for the Commonwealth Heads of Government Summit, also made a eulogy to Maurice Strong. So even way back in 2015, 9 years ago, although Sanex Malta and my current reincarnation of a link with Jeffrey Lippman did not exist then, already a Malta connection was tentatively created through the eulogy during the CHOGM summit. I don't want to take much more of your time. We have a full agenda ahead. So we have 2 sessions of approximately 30 minutes each, which are pre-recorded. First with a selection of climate-friendly travel diploma students from around the world, because this is, although this is Sanex Malta, it's a movement which we gave birth to here with the objective of reaching out to the whole world, because climate change is a global problem. Then we have another recorded session with our key Strong Gratitude Summit partners. After each session, we will allocate 20 minutes of exchange with our online audience and our audience in this room. And obviously, I will leave all the moderation to our my friend and mentor, Jeffrey Lippman, who I hand over the floor to now. So thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for joining us, and I hope that you manage to stay with us for the entire duration of this afternoon. And I look forward to your interaction, your feedback, and that we continue following the proceedings. Over to you, Jeffrey. Thank you.
Just before we start with a short video about Sanex Malta, which was prepared by one of our students. I want to thank you, Leslie, because you said you were my mentor, but I think we were each other's mentors. And for those of you who don't know it out there, Leslie has been a stalwart of international tourism inside the World Tourism Organization, inside the European Travel Commission, where I think you were 17 years the chairperson of the research committee of the ETC. And as long as I've been involved in tourism, Leslie has been a visionary, a friend, and now a complete partner with MTA, Minister of Tourism, Government of Malta, in making any of this activity possible. So on all our behalves, Leslie, I'd just like to thank you for that. And if, Susanna, if you could now play that short video, and then we'll go straight from that into a pre-recorded video of some of our students from the course talking about their vision of climate-friendly travel in their countries. SunX was probably conceived 25 years ago at the Rio Earth Summit in 1992. There's just one existential issue. If we don't fix climate change, your kids, my kids, our grandchildren, they're not going to be here. Enough is enough. You can't keep doing business in this same fashion. You have to change things. I'm sure you all agree with me that that last speaker was really great. Just before you play the video, Susanna, I want to acknowledge you and also Pratishta. Susanna's in the UK, Pratishta is in Nepal. You're going to hear from Pratishta fairly soon. But they, together with Ollie, have been instrumental in helping to put this together. So thank you for all of that. And now if you could take us into the first session, we're going to hear from some of our students, and then we're going to open the floor up to everybody who's participating. If you have questions or comments, please leave them, ideally leave them in the chat box, and we'll try and pick them all up. It's difficult to pick you up on the screen.
Good day, everyone. I'm Pratishta. I'm joining from Kathmandu, Nepal. I look after the education work of SEYS Malta. We operate a couple of different programs and events. One of the main programs is a 2-year climate-friendly travel diploma. This is an online course. We operate this in collaboration with the Institute of Tourism Studies in Malta. I'd like to thank my colleagues from ITS, mainly Dr. Simon Karuna, with whom I work very closely. We're currently in the 3rd year of this diploma program. I was a student myself of the first cohort. Personally, I learned so much from this program, even though I already had postgraduate in international sustainable tourism management from Australia. So I'm really pleased that SunX is offering this course and especially giving opportunities for people from the countries that are most vulnerable to climate change. Over the past 3 years, we have had students from 46 least developed countries and 39 small island developing states and the others are from the developed countries. And our students come from a wide range of backgrounds. Some are from tourism, others are from climate, or from the environmental fields. And this diversity, in my opinion, really adds value to the course participants, besides the learning they receive from our renowned guest lecturers from all over the world. Our new diploma session is starting this end September. So we invite you to check our website if this is of interest to you, or you feel the urge to learn and implement the principles of climate-friendly travel in your country. We do have some scholarships as well. We also organize an annual Strong Earth Awards. In fact, we'll be announcing the award winners of 2024 towards the end of the summit. So please stay tuned, especially if you have applied for the awards. And this Strong Earth Youth Summit is also held annually. We really appreciate your support by joining us today. And thank you. Now let's hear from a selection of our great diploma students.
And thank you so much to the COP28 presidency and this esteemed panelists that I get to be up here with. As a young Pacific Islander, the ocean is so important to our livelihoods. My uncle told me that as people of the sea, we live because the sea lives. So let's start there. Today I'm going to talk about the importance of coastal tourism to the ocean breakthrough. So I will go through some of the points. It's not just about sustainability and conserving our ocean spaces, it's also about equity. So let me start with that. I want to talk about the elephant in the room. Because it doesn't matter how much we do to make tourism businesses in the ocean economy more climate resilient, if these economies do not support local people and continue to degrade our ocean and lands. John F. Kennedy once said that a rising tide lifts all boats. It's true that tourism brings the rising tide of economic development, but land is a boat that few islanders have now. Land is so much more than just a commodity. In Palau, land is part of our social fabric. We even have a name for each parcel of land, and that land is passed down from generation relatives, and it helps define who we are and where we come from. That's why when we discuss the loss of land, whether that's through rising sea levels or the privatization of land for tourists, it's an existential crisis to so many islanders, and it represents a loss of thousands of years of culture and history. Due to tourism developments in island and coastal areas, we have seen an increased number of outmigration of local people due to the intergenerational dispossession of lands that has created instability and prevention of wealth. Many islanders, they actually move to developed countries to become treated like second-class citizens. This is the case for many Micronesians that move to the United States, for instance. And in Palau, we actually have a saying that that means that the sea crabs have pushed out the land crabs. And it's there to signify how foreign investments have pushed out local land titles for local people. That's why in island destinations that heavily rely on tourism, there are more Hawaiians living outside of Hawaii than there are in Hawaii. And that's why I echo what Prime Minister Mia Mottley said, that we do not want to become tenants of our own land. Besides land alienation, it's economic leakages that are also preventing the true benefits from tourism dollars from being realized in the island and coastal destinations that need it most. In fact, islands get a lot of foreign direct investments. Statistics show we get actually 4 times more foreign direct investment than other developing nations. So we don't need to be asking for more money from tourism. We need to be asking how local communities can see more of that money and how it can be better utilized for a just transition. So that brings me to my final point, and that's to say that as we think about building the climate resiliency of the fastest growing sector of the ocean economy, let's not forget people. Let's not perpetuate economic imperialism, and let's use this industry as a force for good to preserve local cultures, help local people, and conserve life on our planet. Thank you.
Hi everyone, it's Hudson here representing the Fiji Islands. It's my pleasure to talk to you about the three main challenges of introducing the climate-friendly travel system into Fiji as far as my thoughts and ideas are concerned. The very first thing that came to mind is the cost of implementation, whether it's going to be around the policies, ideas, actions, whether it's going to be at a micro or macro level, is always going to be a cost. And to put things into perspective, Fiji, as a South Pacific nation, developing country, which has a currency of Fijian dollars, which is 2.2 to 1 US dollar. We have a GDP of 4.98 billion versus the Australian GDP at 1.53 trillion. A national debt of 4.07 billion. And more importantly, we actually have a new government in play. And as I'm sure you may be aware from experiences in your own home countries, if the policies or if the introduction of anything new is not aligned with the government's long-term plans or even short or long-term plans, then there's going to be a risk of an implementation. So that for me is going to be at the very top of my list, is around the cost of implementation juxtaposed with government expenditure as far as the budget is concerned. The second one as well for me is going to be around education. Education is so vital. So when you talk to the concept of climate-friendly travel to a Fijian sitting by a stream in the village with beautiful mountains, coconut trees, and the beach around, the idea that those resources have potential to disappear, it's going to be like a joke in his or her face. Because currently right now in Fiji, and as you've seen in the videos that I introduced at the beginning of this presentation, Fiji is a very beautiful, lush country, like some of the countries that you also represent as well. So we need to start educating at an elementary or primary school level about the possible impact that climate-friendly travel or the climate-friendly travel or the absence of climate-friendly travel will have on our country if we don't do something and start shaking people up and saying this is what potentially can happen to you. So we definitely need to challenge the status quo. The other third one as well that I thought was very unique to Fiji as a destination is the traditional society and the way of living. Fiji offers over 333 islands. We have 3 confederacies, 14 provinces and 1,166 villages. Whilst there is modern government in play, there is also traditional governance because this has been the way of life for over 3,000 years. So coming in to introduce something like this, we definitely need to make sure that our chiefs are aligned with the concept. And we also need to make sure that from a governance perspective as well, that the voices of the chiefs are carried out throughout the islands to ensure that people will come on board and react to the fact that if we do not introduce a climate-friendly travel system within the country, then the resources which are near and dear to our people, which is the land and the ocean, have high risk of disappearing. So there are the pointers on the screen, but as far as I'm concerned, these are some of the potential risks as well that we have for Fiji. Thank you so much.
1.5 Paris Agreement on the threshold that would avert climate change has now been breached, as studies show, over the last 12 months. Well, this is really big news. And what does that mean for Bali? Well, we know we have to anticipate climate change and the consequences for Bali as a destination. There will be increased pressure on the environment and increased degradation due to the rise in temperature and the rising seas and all the other effects of climate change. And very much is the impact on the economy, obviously, as 50% of the economy relies on tourism. And it's really important to plan for this changing future and to realize that adaptation is a very key factor that Bali has to do in order to adapt to climate change. Climate-friendly travel services can create a roadmap for Bali to cope with climate change. And this is called the Plan B for Bali. And it's based on research where you identify key issues and definitely what the key responses have to be. and what Bali has to do to keep growing as a climate-friendly travel destination. So much of it is also about climate risk planning. And all this is only possible if key stakeholders are convinced that they will buy in to this plan B. So how to make it happen? Well, the key is to involve key stakeholders such as the Tourism Board, the Ministry of Tourism, and other key players in the tourism industry, because only with their buy-in can the Plan B developed by the climate-friendly travel services actually be implemented. And in my experience, this is probably the difficult bit. So what it would take is to educate and raise awareness on the threat of climate change, and to be able to push for a commitment to be made to develop and adopt this vision and the Plan B roadmap. And on top of that, as chapter leaders, it's our role to build a community around climate-friendly travel, which will help to advocate and push the decision makers to act on this and develop the climate-friendly travel.
Good day to all of you. Today I will present the design of my one-year strategy to build a climate-friendly travel community in the Dominican Republic. I will also include one CFT project that is most relevant, in my opinion, for the Dominican Republic. So currently, climate-friendly travel initiatives are mostly carried out by companies based on individual company needs. So a community platform where companies can share experiences, best practices, lessons learned, where they can network, support each other, create partnerships, etc. It's really missing in the tourism sector. So through a number of activities, I would like to build such a community to boost networking and partnership opportunities here in the country. During the first 2 months of the one-year strategy, I will identify key stakeholders and individuals with the greatest interest in driving CFT initiatives here in the country, including the Ministry of Tourism, general managers, CEOs, respective key senior individuals in the sector. So my idea is to then encourage the community to have regular meetings and establish maybe also ideal ways of future communication and community building in Punta Cana. And the idea is that these meetings and exchanges will be spread throughout the country from there on.
Right, three major challenges. First one is the public awareness and the behavioral change. One of the major important topic to a country like us. Fostering a transition to climate-friendly travel practices in Sri Lanka necessitates a fundamental shift in public behavior and mindset, I would say. The climate lies in overcoming resistance to change, particularly when traditional transportation modes are deeply embedded in the culture or when there is a lack of awareness regarding the environmental repercussions of existing travel habits. Tackling this issue, I would say, requires comprehensive public education campaigns in Sri Lanka, enlightening citizens about ecological impact of their choices. In addition, implementing incentives for sustainable travel choices become imperative. Motivating individuals to embrace environmentally friendly alternatives is again challenging. So by actively engaging the public through awareness, in public awareness initiatives and fostering tangible benefits, Sri Lanka can effectively instigate a cultural shift, I would say, toward the sustainable transportation, sustainable travel solutions. Second one is the infrastructure development that we all are facing at the moment. Sri Lanka, the transition to climate-friendly travel system is impeded by inadequate infrastructure, notably the absence of suitable public transportation, and then for an example, charging station for electric vehicles, is lacking at the moment. The existing transport infrastructure may not be well aligned with sustainable alternatives, what we all are suggesting under this program even, posing a formidable challenge to their implementation. So economic considerations is the third challenge that I have recognized. The adaptation of climate-friendly technologies in Sri Lanka, such as electric vehicles and renewable energy sources for accommodation options, hospitality options, travel, tourism options, encounters a significant obstacle in the form of initial cost and investment because of the rising cost of living and the inflation. The economic challenges arises from the necessity to secure substantial financing for these transitions is a task made more complex by competing priorities for limited resources, because we all are in Sri Lanka now struggling for the basic needs. Striking a delicate balance between investing in sustainable climate-friendly travel solutions is a challenge at the moment, because other needs are pressing to a crucial aspects at the moment in Sri Lanka.
My name is Ropam Shora. My target audience will be the residents in Zimbabwe, the ones who are involved in local travel and tourism, the industry stakeholders, that is owners of the hotels, suppliers, farmers, and the youth as well here in Zimbabwe. Strategy, therefore, for the first year will be to in the first 3 months, to have a foundation building where I'll be able to identify the existing environmental groups in the different types of destinations in Zimbabwe. For example, here in the Great Zimbabwe destination, Victoria Falls, Kariba, and then assess their needs to understand the gaps and the threats that each destination is going to face. There, from that way, I'll be able to then create platforms for engagement with these different groups from the different destinations. And after that, the next 2, 4, 6 months, I'll be able to raise awareness through educational campaigns, through having conversations and discussions on webinars and Zoom meetings, to be able to discuss the threats that each nation has got and how we are able to come together as climate change champions to plan policies and be able to preserve our destinations for the future. In the 7th to 9th month, I'll be able then to select a project, and my selection of project will be for Victoria Falls and the Great Zimbabwe Monuments, because these two are the anchor of tourism here in Zimbabwe. Then on the last 10 to 12 months, we'll be able to have policies now put down between the government and the Ministry of Tourism and ZTA. We're able to come up with public petitions organizing like-minded people to raise awareness about the pressing climate issues here in Zimbabwe, and particularly for those two destinations. Finally, we'll be able to evaluate on our activities for the year and strategize for long-term sustainability of the climate advocacy committee that I would have formed.
You all know what is happening now in Haiti. It's been a very challenging 2 years for us. In the last 2 years, the president of the country was assassinated, and since that, there was like a big problem, social, political, and violent and conflict crisis in Haiti. That's really put a lot of challenges to do the work that we are doing in Haiti. So, based on this, there is a question there: to stop, to wait until the peace is back, or to keep moving? The answer is to keep moving. As last week, Jeffrey said something about the global principle and focus on local actions. I will say the national or the global challenge, but focus on local social action. So this is what we're going to do. Of course, there is a big challenge, but we will do the best we can to do the work, because we can't wait. As the climate change is not waiting for us, it keeps changing. In the same time, we can't wait to change stuff, but we have to move forward. So what is going to be? What is the goal? The goal, we will train young people to climate resilience and tourism advocacy in Haiti. And we will establish a leadership and chapter focused on climate-friendly travel. And of course, we will map facilities like hotel tourism site for a sustainable tourism development in Haiti. Implementation plan, we're going to allocate the next 12 months of the internship to initiate and to develop the leaders. So we're going to conduct like training session for young leaders across Haiti, 3 places actually. One will be in Port-au-Prince, the capital. One will be in the north, in Saint Raphael, and one will be on the island of La Gonave, a place where I work in the West Department in Haiti. Each training will host about 25 people. That will be by the end of the internship. We will train about 75 people, and between in this group, we will see the one who's most interested to start a platform with them. And we will begin to map the facilities and identify potential partners and collaborations between the facilities. The strategy that we're going to use to implement this project, so we're going to use a lot the social media because it's very used in Haiti. So we're going to train the numbers of people. Each will be like the one that will really get to it will be like an ambassador, a champions to use the platform to advocate, to train, to sensibilize the people in Haiti. And we will outline a platform to advocate for climate resilience and sustainable tourism. So as I said, people use we will have like a WhatsApp group, for instance, to bring people to have conversation. And of course, we will encourage the participation and collaboration of stakeholders in the community. As we said, because Haiti, the way it is, we can't wait for the government until they be there to start the work. We will start with the community. And then to start the bottom up, train people. The population, they are the most important one. If we start with the new generations, that will be like very, very powerful.
Greetings to everyone from Ukraine. I'm Victoria Kiptenko. One can imagine how vital for us Ukrainians was the possibility to join SONIC's Malta climate-friendly travel diploma in 2022. This cause made us strong in knowledge. Thanks to the lectures and more, thanks to the tasks and debates we prepared and participated in, we got the universal capacity for reasoning the existential nature of climate change. Time is right, and ambitious and motivated ones are ready to success.
Hello to everyone, I'm Katerina Dolhova, and I'd like to notice that this course is also about the atmosphere of solidarity and support. The four of us became co-leaders of the CFT Ukraine chapter. It is a part of the network of like-minded activists and motivated ambassadors and armed by meaningful proficiency. Many Ukrainian stakeholders of the travel and tourism sector notice a shortage of specialists because of endless professional migration abroad. Besides, they need experts in green post-war recovery. That is why, at the interns of the diploma, we move forward in a concrete direction, and we test our abilities and capabilities now.
We held the introductory webinar, spoke to people, and participated in different initiatives. Our co-leader, Irina Okalovich, initiated cooperation with the Union of Green Rural Tourism of Ukraine. So we had webinar online training with involvement of about 160 motivated and ambitious entrepreneurs, students, activists. They all are potential ambassadors of climate-friendly travel. Among them, there are 4 pioneer registrants of the CFT registry from Ukraine.
Greetings to everybody. My name is Maria Rastvorova. Indeed, they are eager to learn and do more real actions for the development of climate-friendly paths for the tourism development for the Ukrainian destinations. We are excited that due to the previously developed collaboration with the Ukrainian chapter leaders and a mentorship of Professor Jeffrey Lippman and SANEX team, two largest cities of Ukraine, Kiev and Kharkiv, expressed their intention to become pioneers in the transition to climate-friendly tourism. We are designing the climate action plan and implementation of real actions. As we have no Planet B, Ukraine B, and Life B. Thank you for your engagement.
This is Anil from India, and I'm presenting the plan of action for the next 1 year. I have devised into 4 quarters, and each quarter have come up with some actionable plans, and here they are. Particular single slide I have collected from session 9, where Jeffrey presented this entire ecosystem of CFT. To understand the Indian context, I have also presented the situation in India as India is doing good in terms of addressing the Paris 1.5 agreement. However, there's a lack of knowledge in tourism domain specific, so we want to trigger that in the next 1 year with CFT chapter in India. Initiate the whole process, I have devised the timeline into 4 quarters. And the first quarter, we wish to start with a chapter launch, the Indian chapter launch, wherein we are envisaging 100 participants to be there, and subsequently these 100 to be recruited into the CFT registry. If that happens, then we'll find the initial ecosystem to trigger the whole process. In the quarter 2, the first focus we want to envisage would be the aviation industry, because that's some industry wherein none of the communication is really being exchanged with the public domain, and we want to really trigger that honeycomb so that we can extract the information to work on it and come up with some more intervention in the process. In the same quarter, we want to come up with an event which will be like an education to action kind of event on the climate-friendly travel. That will be subsequently can be an event for the globe also. And in the third quarter, we want to transform at least one single destination with the possible interventions of climate-friendly travel, like maybe introducing the construction patterns into recyclable material like bamboo, or else installation of solar panels, or implementation of electric vehicle transportation, food practices which might be more towards friendly vegan diet or vegetable diet, then treating the water, etc. And the similar kind of activity we want to propose it for the local government also, so that they can implement this process for the various destinations in the state. In the fourth quarter, we are providing the services to the members who registered with us, so that they can also transform and adopt the climate-friendly practices and technologies in their in their properties. And we want to create, by the end of 1 year, create at least one person representing each state in India. And India is blessed with around 28 states as of now.
Good day. I am Maud Masiwa, and I am a former CFT student through SANEX Malta and ITS Malta. The course has opened many doors of opportunity for me in the area of climate change and its intersection with the tourism industry. I am also the chapter coordinator for SANEX Malta, as well as the chapter leader for Zimbabwe. And with the support of my colleague, Lina Mkoji, we look after nearly 100 chapters, mostly in poor and small island states all over the world. As my colleague practitioner noted earlier, all our enrolled students complete approximately 300 hours of learning in their first year. Thereafter, in their second year, they move into their internship, and here the students become chapter leaders, with the objective of driving a climate-friendly travel community in their own country. The CFT chapter operates on the ethical sustainability principles of the Earth Charter that was inspired by Maurice Strong after the 1992 Rio Earth Summit. The same chapter leaders help us by identifying like-minded individuals in their own country who will undertake a shortened induction course and will also support the chapter in strengthening its local action. The chapter leaders also support our registrar through the identification and recruitment process of travel and hospitality related organizations in the country. And these organizations in turn signify their CFT commitment by signing into the SANEX registry. The said registered organizations will receive continuous support from us through our three main social enterprises. These are namely CFT Services, who help prepare a Plan B quick scan for tourism climate, SDG, and nature positive transformation. The other social enterprise that they will get support through is our CFT Club, which gives global promotion, rewards, and discounted rates to our CFT Club members. And the other social enterprise we have is what we call the CFT Facility, which focuses on raising sponsorship or project funding to sustain the growth of the chapters and the social enterprises. I would like to say here, from a personal point, that this has been an amazing journey. I echo how rewarding it has been to all of us in the organization, and we love to share this passion. We want this community to grow, and we hope that you will join us as well. Thank you ever so much. Have a lovely day.
Well, all of you in the chat have been remarkably quiet. And this is your opportunity. So please, if you have any comments on what you've listened to, if you have any questions to my colleagues here in the room, just make a little note in the chat box and we'll try to respond. In the meantime, I can just say that every time I listen to our students, I get encouraged to believe that what we're trying to do to create a global community which is focused on climate-friendly travel, Paris 1.5, Sustainable Development Goals, and nature positive, this is the right direction. And it's very important, even though the Paris 1.5 issue is the dominant issue, any transformation of tourism will need to take into account all of these three factors. And in every location, this is a unique situation because everything starts from the location where you are. And I've always believed this, at the end of the day, it's the location and the residents which are ultimately the dominant players in this game rather than the visitors. And because after the visit's over, it's the residents who are left to deal with the situation. I'm going to turn to my colleagues here whilst I wait for some questions. Hans, I think that's the first time you've listened to that replay of the students. You're not only the registrar of the Climate Friendly Travel Registry living here in Malta on the island of Gozo, but you're an experienced guy in the tourism sector. We worked together many years ago when you were the regional director for IUCN for Europe. And also, just before you came to SANEX Group, you were the Director General of a nature-related organization based in Beijing, INBA, dealing with bamboo and rattan. So let me throw it over to you. How do you feel about the reaction of the students that you've heard today?
Well, thanks, Jeffrey, and thanks to the students. I thought it was the most amazing representation from all over the world. I think that's the other exciting thing is, I think Leslie said to start with, we are SANEX Malta, but we're not a Maltese organization, we're global. And to see students from Asia, from Africa, from the Caribbean, basically from all over the world, giving their thoughts and their views is very encouraging. I think it's great to see the opportunities there are. As Jeffrey says, I'm the registrar, and I find it very exciting to notice regular increase in the number of companies, the number of hotels, lodges, tourism enterprises that actually join us. We're at the moment nearly at 500, and that's not nothing. Different places around the world that have committed to climate-friendly travel, have committed to Paris 1.5, SDGs, Nature Plus, and are part of our growing community. I think the 500 is actually an underestimate because some of these companies represent more than one entity. So in fact, we presumably have already more than 500 on the map, but it's a great, great number after a couple of years of work. And it's growing, as I say, there are still more coming. And I think with these chapters that are now becoming more active, with more coordinating, with the individual chapter leaders taking on the responsibility, and we saw it in some of these presentations, we're going to get more and more enterprises that say, we want to be part of this. And to be honest, it's what Jeffrey often says when we have our little Zoom calls with hotels or with general managers who are considering joining us. The question is really, why not? It's free, it's something that helps you, it's positive, and it's really an exercise that can only help us to basically build this community of climate-friendly travel players.
And just before I go to the questions, just to follow on with that, we've adopted, under your guidance, a kind of different approach to the whole question of commitment and behavioural change and how that is reflected in the eco badges in the registry. Would you just like to say a couple of words about that?
I think again, when we started a couple of years ago, we were thinking that really we wanted everybody to measure their carbon footprint and to put figures in a table. And we realized that there's a lot of questions about that. How you measure it, what is the best way of doing it? And in the end, really, to get a figure onto a table doesn't actually help you changing your attitude. So what we've said is, more important is it for somebody to actually have a plan. So when you join the climate-friendly travel community by listing your property on the registry, you get the badge that you've seen at the start, the sort of climate-friendly travel badge. Very nice, very, very clear. I think the sort of thing that people can use for publicity, for advertising, just to show they're part of the community. When you then list your plan on the registry has basically two parts, the commitment, which is part A, and the registry part B, which is to show what your climate actions are. Once you've done that, you're actually allowed, you're able to use the other badge, which has the SDG 17 rings around it. So it's a badge that shows that you're serious, you have a plan. And what we always say is, look, at the end of the day, you're saying you have that plan, people will check you. And if you actually are talking nonsense and you don't really have any action, the travelers, the people that want to see what you're doing will call you out. It's not for us to tell you whether you're right or wrong. They will tell you.
Thank you. There's two questions that I've picked up from the chat, both really from people saying, we don't have a chapter in our country, how do we get involved? And I think the short answer is, Pratishta mentioned at the beginning of her presentation, we're going to go into a new year and we're going to be accepting new students coming forward, and we're open to everybody. We thanks to the generosity of our friends in Malta, and last year the minister himself actually gave us a significant number of scholarships. So if you're coming from one of those countries where it's an LDC, a poor country, or a small island state, you probably will be able to have a scholarship. Our next course starts in September, and we look forward to growing this community. Ollie, you've been very quiet. You have listened to all of this. You've been an active part from the very beginning. You're the program manager. and you're running the Climate Friendly Travel Services Group. How do you react to listening to the students sort of a second time round and in this kind of a framework?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really inspired. I think that every year that we run the diploma course, we get to meet and to get to know really amazing people from around the world, from a variety of different backgrounds, some of them that haven't come from a tourism background, most of whom have. And each year it's always really, really inspiring to learn from them as much as we help to teach them about the principles of climate-friendly travel. And I think that the presentations that you've just heard give you a flavour of some of that amazing diversity of experience and everything that brings to the evolution of the diploma programme. We're certainly finding that with the development of our chapters in each of these countries, which is now almost 80 countries around the world, that we are getting amazing ideas and input from people who are very, very talented. And we're really proud to be working with on the diploma course because we're learning from them, and the quality is always surprising and always a pleasure. So yeah, we're really looking forward to announcing the next round of scholarships, which, as Jeffrey mentioned, enable us to be able to reach out to places in the world which are most affected by climate change and have had the least impact in terms of causing the issues which they are facing the effects of. So yeah, really exciting to be going towards year 4 of the diploma, being able to launch more chapters in new countries and also to strengthen the chapters where we're already building climate-friendly travel communities around the world.
Thank you. And before I ask my friend Jed to say something, I noticed there's a couple of questions here. Susie Hutomo is asking, how could we perhaps support or work to get government engagement? And I think from my perspective, Susie, it's been said we've got over 100 chapters now. And we are looking increasingly towards our chapter leaders to devise the approach to government inside their own community. It's really much more relevant for you to do that as chapter leaders, then for us to work with you, to support you, as we actually have been doing so well in Bali. And Ollie, did you want to say something about that? You're raising your hand.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, Susie is in I was going to say a privileged position, but we've been lucky enough to work with Susie and her colleague Rami at Ecotourism Bali, who are both students on the diploma, to develop a Plan B framework. And that's something which we want to replicate in other countries and other chapters around the world. And the Plan B framework is really to give a template for implementing a climate-friendly travel approach within a destination. And it starts off by identifying the main climate impacts, looking at opportunities for adaptation, and then it's divided into 3 sections, which are the core pillars of climate-friendly travel, which is being focused on the Paris 1.5 degree limit to global warming. It's about linkages with all the relevant SDGs. And then finally, it's about looking at nature-positive solutions, nature-based solutions, which are going to help people to adapt, mitigate, and build a more sustainable climate-friendly travel future within those countries. So we've been really, really very, very lucky to work with both Susie and Rami on developing a proof of concept for Bali. And this is something which we want to replicate for all our chapters where there is willing to help to support the growth of climate-friendly travel in those communities.
And together with our colleague Maya, you're actually developing these Plan B framework, quick scans as we call them, using AI, right?
Yeah, that's right. We're using AI is there as a tool for us to be able to crunch a lot of big data, but specifically focusing on very important key pieces of research, such as the TPCC report and others like it, which are very well-developed tourism research papers, which then help to influence the wider AI research to bring back increasingly accurate information, which we use as guidance, and then we apply our own expertise from within the SunX group, from within the chapters, and from within our wider network to actually shape these Plan B framework reports.
Thank you. Jed, you've been uncharacteristically silent.
It's been a very, very interesting session. I think everybody would agree. A mixture of emotions for me, Jeffrey, really, because as we're listening to Maurice Strong there at the beginning, and given how long Maurice was campaigning for this, and sometimes it's easy to think, we still haven't come a huge way. Not a huge amount has changed, apart from a lot of the climate crisis has got significantly worse. And I'm sort of remarking on that when I'm listening to Maurice speaking there before, and feeling a little bit exasperated by that. But then at the same time, when we listen to all of the students that we've got, and you hear their passion and their dedication, and it makes me feel a lot more optimistic that we are giving ourselves the best possible chance for getting out of this mess by using some of the brightest young minds all over the world. It's incredible, isn't it? We're seeing the comments coming on and people saying, "Oh, greetings from Haiti, greetings from Fiji, greetings from everywhere in the world," and it's been absolutely wonderful to see that. And I suppose it was interesting. I got one of these thought for the day things up this morning, and it was a quote from Theodore Roosevelt, and it just made me think of exactly what everybody's doing. Because what came across is everybody's doing so much in the areas that they're in, and they're trying to make an impact in the area that they're in. And the quote from Theodore Roosevelt was, "Do what you can do with what you've got in the place that you're in." So basically, just do the best that you can with what's available to you wherever you are. You can't solve the global climate crisis completely on your own, but you can make a start in your own area. And that's what's absolutely coming across from all the students. So I think it's been great. I do think there's more questions that we have, though.
Yeah.
So we should give people the time.
Well, I'm just going to look down the end of this table. We've heard from students all over the place. How about our students from Malta? Would anybody like to add something to this exchange? Charmaine, you're never a quiet person.
Just
Here's you as well, and you too, Christopher, right? You graduated.
Personally, I'm going to end this diploma in a few months, hopefully. And from what I've learned and from what I've seen throughout the first year and half of my second year, pretty much, it's been very interesting as a diploma in itself. I've learned a lot. I've researched a lot myself. I've competed in competitions. I've done assignments. I've met different people. It's very interesting. I recommend this diploma to everybody out there.
Yeah, we're very keen to start to work with you down here in Malta. I think, Hans, we're kind of ready to do that now. There's a couple of other questions here that I see in the chat, and particularly one from Hudson. Hudson's one of our very active and very smart students from Fiji. You heard his presentation. And basically what he's saying is, it's okay talking to students and adults. What about people in the younger generation? And you give me the opportunity to introduce my cuddly friend here, the dodo. And I can tell you, Hudson, and you'll hear it also briefly in the next presentation, which I'm going to move to after this comment. I've been working with friends in Switzerland for over 25 years on a project which it's not my idea, was one of our guest lecturers on the first year's course, Nicola, and unfortunately she passed away last year. But she and a brilliant artist in Switzerland, Christian Jolle, actually had produced 65 made-for-television cartoons, which were published and shown on French television, Spanish television, Japanese television at about the turn of the century. And these are about a dodo which returns from extinction, because the dodo, an extinct bird on Mauritius, was killed by sailors traveling from Europe to the Far East and landing in Mauritius and killing this large, rather simple flightless bird which hadn't been in contact with humans, so it came up to be petted and they strangled it. And Christian Jolle made these cartoons, and we've secured the rights to them, and they're actually, they're old, but for young kids, each one has a climate or environmental message. So we're resurrecting the dodo, and we're flying it from Mauritius to Malta, and it's going to become the leader of a course that we're going to start for kids, for preschool kids and for first-year school kids below the age of 10. And we have a young South African girl at the moment who's writing a book about the places that you can visit and get the pleasure of visiting as climate-friendly travelers. So in answer to your question, Hudson, watch this space, it's coming soon. And actually, to finish this story off, we actually have a life-size dodo, 6 foot, that 20 years ago, I took with me to give a presentation to the Executive Council of UNEP, the UN Environment Programme, in Nairobi. And I flew from Geneva to Nairobi with this 6 foot dodo with me. And when it came to be my turn to give a presentation, I put this big dodo inside the chair and said, look, this is where we're going if we don't start to do something now. And we're picking this up in Malta, and the dodo is going to become our ambassador to kids. So that's the answer to your question, Hudson. And with that, I think I'd like to move on, Susanna, to the second and final part of our SEYS event today, which is to talk with our partners about the partnerships that we have to build climate-friendly travel out around the world. Over to you, Susanna. Good.
Yeah, we now have the Remembering Maurice Strong book in Chinese, which we can help to promote together. And if you recall, we also have our friends at the European Centre for Peace and Development who organized the book, and they have quite a strong network, and we can bring them into this. And I think we're at a moment, Jinfeng, when we can truly solidify our effort at a time when we need to build bridges between the world and China.
Yes.
And nothing could be more in the spirit of our friend Maurice Strong than this understanding that China can be such an important part of a better world. We have almost 100 chapter leaders out in the world now. They've been trained on the diploma. We've created a facility to give them financial support and a club for young travelers. And it's particularly that club for young Chinese travelers and young travelers from elsewhere who perhaps can be that bridge into the future that you and Maurice recognized when you did the work together in the founding of CBC GDF. And we want to support you. We have a program for schools that we're developing with animated cartoons and a book which we'd like again to send to you to put into Mandarin once it's developed. And all of these things we now have a capacity to deliver, again, thanks to the great support that we get from Malta, where I think that was probably the last time we saw each other was in Malta.
Yes, thank you. We are so honored and delighted to participate, and we'll do our best. This is we totally agree that this is the time we can really get together to do something. I'm trying to talk to the authority and to let them understand the science system and understand the climate tourism, your idea about the education, about through the tourism business and to empower the understanding of climate and biodiversity. This is especially important for us to work together and to get Maurice's idea and understanding of the world and to promote his spirit. We're really looking forward and to promote, to start your education, your tourism, and your system is very important. And also the book, we are quite interested in promoting it, to read, to understand what the Maurice has done, has said many years ago, is really still leading us.
And one specific point also, we have started for the last 2 or 3 years to ask students to write essays about why the Earth Charter is more relevant now even than when Maurice conceived of it after Rio. And I think we could extend this essay competition, if you're happy about this, to young people in China.
Yes.
So we can use the power of the internet, the power of education, and the spirit of Maurice Strong.
Totally agree. And we can do those part in China is we can to mobilize some fund to give the prize within China is we can do that very easy. Outside is now quite strong regulation, but within China we can just do. You just give the order, we'll do at your disposal. And also, we have applied of the small island meeting of the UN as the host. We together to have the side event. We do not need money from you, but we need your name, and we make it this side event is specialized on small island country development and biodiversity, and hope we can work together to have that.
Appreciate very much, and we are in. There's no question about this. We are with you.
That's great. can we invite him, your students from a small island to participate?
Yes, absolutely.
And we can, through this platform, we can tell to spread more Morris idea and about quite a few things we can consider and quite a few options. And we would like to work together.
The Earth is magnificent, an ecosystem of diversity with one shared destiny. But our home is in crisis, and we know we have to act. Yet knowing is not enough. We don't need a new agenda, we need a new mindset. This is Earth Charter, a document with 16 principles turning conscience into action, our commitment to a just, sustainable, and peaceful world. With these foundations, we can all get to work. To the oceans, the mountains, and the forests. To our homes, our schools, and businesses. Powered by a growing global movement working together to make all life on Earth thrive. Founded by visionaries 20 years ago. We invite the visionaries of today to join us. To show the future that we're never giving up. We know you're ready. Now, let's get to work.
What do you think is the role of instruments such as the Earth Charter? And what is the added value of the Earth Charter in the midst of this numerous instruments that is out there?
Well, throughout human history, the people have tried to articulate the basic principles which should guide them in their lives and guide their societies. I mean, in our history, at the English-speaking history, the Magna Carta, there are many examples of how people in different civilizations have tried to state the fundamental principles of their civilization. What is different about the Earth Charter is that it seeks to articulate principles that apply to the Earth as a whole and to human beings everywhere on the Earth, to the relationships of people to the Earth and the relationships of people to each other. So it is, these principles are very important. And the Earth Charter is a global instrument. And that is what distinguishes it from the instruments that have come from different cultures and different societies and different civilizations. This one applies to the whole of humanity.
So there are a number of countries, or most of the countries are focused on the national interests. How do you think countries can overcome the national interests to achieve the interest of the whole Earth and the interest of the whole humanity?
Well, there are some very practical reasons. The main one is that the future of every country cannot be achieved only by that country. There is an absolute necessity to work with others around the world, for your own interest, because people cannot realize their own hopes for the future only within the context of their own country or their own organization. They have to do it in cooperation with others. And the Earth Charter provides a fundamental set of principles to guide them in that process.
Mm-hmm. So you have been at the beginning of the Earth Charter international movement and initiative. You were one of the founders. And now my question to you is, how do you envision the future of the Earth Charter initiative? What would you like to see happen in the Earth Charter initiative in the future? What would be your recommendation for all of us?
The two things are, one, to ensure that people throughout the world have the opportunity to understand and express their own views about not just the wording of the Earth Charter, but the principles of the Earth Charter. And then, most importantly, that it influences their actions. The Earth Charter should influence the actions of people as individuals and also of their nations and their governments. So, two things: ensure that people throughout the world have their opportunity to understand and discuss the principles. The second thing is that these principles are actually integrated into the life of individuals and nations.
Hello, everyone. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here today to announce the winners of the Strong Earth Awards 2024. It's been such an incredible journey, and I can't wait to share the excitement with all of you. First off, a huge congratulations to our amazing winners. Each one of them has shown such dedication and passion for making a difference in the world. It's truly inspiring. They each received grants of €500, thanks to the generous support from Sunex Malta and Les Roches. Let's not forget the special award of €1,000 in honor of the late Vanna Jolie, one of the pioneers. Let's talk about the essays. Wow, they were thought-provoking to say the least. Our winners dove deep into why the Earth Charter is more relevant than ever, especially when it comes to tourism in countries that are still developing or those beautiful small island nations. Their words really hit home, reminding us why it's so important to prioritize sustainability in everything we do. I want to take a moment to thank each and every participant who shared their thoughts and ideas with us. Your voices matter more than you know, and you're all making a difference in the world. As we move forward, let's keep Maurice Strong's vision close to our hearts. His leadership and wisdom continue to light the way for us, even in the face of challenges. And let's remember that we're all in this together. By working hand in hand, we can create a brighter, more sustainable future for generations to come. On behalf of my dear colleague, Jeffrey Littman, and myself, it is my pleasure to announce the winners. So with no further ado, here we go.
It is our pleasure to introduce the Strong Earth Awards for 2024. The winners are Ivory Vote, Jay Marungi, Letsatsi Lekoa, Lynn Nandar Kwa, Deepa Dahal, Hudson Mitchell, Provia Kasande, Imesha Diwakara, Kirmi E. Gatwiri, and Kanaf Kanduya. And the Special Valera Chol Award is going to Shona K. Fafale.
Once again, thank you to all the participants for your time and dedication to a bright future for generations to come. And a huge congratulations to the winners. Thank you.
I have been working on these issues for many years, and they are still not resolved. And I'm an old man now. If I can help a little bit, I'd like to try. I think everybody, how can I say to everybody that they must take this issue seriously? They must help. And then I'm not helping myself. I must help. And why? Because I have 11 grandchildren. Not only that, but I have many millions of children whose future depends on what we do. So how can we do something better than to help to give those children a secure and sustainable and equitable future, because poverty is still the enemy of so many people. And they must be enfranchised. And we must share, we must be willing to share the benefits of our civilization much more fully. And we also require the cooperation of everyone. So we have to be more socially responsible. We have to show more fairness, more equity, and more individual responsibility, but also more collective responsibility. So why am I still doing it? Because I really want to make my own little contribution to the future of my children and children around the world.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright, blessed day, the dark, sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
To act now, and it's a testament to the late Maurice Strong that we've been gathered today. I want to thank everybody who's been participating, and there's a number of questions that were put down that we haven't answered here because we want to keep to a reasonable time, and we will answer them. We've got a record, and I see some of my colleagues are already responding, but we'll respond to all of you. And one continuing question is, people were saying they'd like to see a copy of the Maurice Strong book, and everybody who's attending this SEYS event will receive an online copy of that book. So I'd like to thank everybody in the room. On behalf also of Leslie, who was called away to an important meeting in the middle of this, but without whom there wouldn't be any of this. I want to thank you all for participating. I want to thank my colleagues in SunX, Hans and Jed and Ollie, Ushi for all your help with organising the meeting, all our friends in MTA, and to, again, finally, to Pratishta and Susanna, who've been helping us with the electronics, and it's worked pretty well. So with that, I'm going to bring this summit, the fourth Strong Earth Youth Summit, to a close. And thank you all very much for your participation. Thank you.
No one can speak to that. No abuse of it.
Yeah, I know.
Music, yeah?
I'm muted now.